Now I can do a news video. So I'm wearing my, see it says forecheck, back check, paycheck. This is my Letterkenny t-shirt. Because every now and then in a live stream, people are like, hey, does Shannon watch Letterkenny? Of course I watch Letterkenny. I love Letterkenny. One of the most Canadian shows that's ever... I think Letterkenny, Corner Gas, and Trailer Park Boys all exist in the same universe. Just one's a little cleaner than the other two. So, we got 2 games tonight. We have a 3-game day coming up soon, so get ready for that, because that's going to feel really, really busy all of a sudden. So at 7 o'clock Eastern, and you'll notice, yes, I've switched the Eastern and Western Conference logos around, because what's life without whimsy? And at 7 o'clock Eastern, we're going to have the Boston Bruins trying to go up 2-0 on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And what's going to make it hard for Tampa is that Ryan McDonough is going to be out for Game 2. So that definitely makes things more difficult for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not going to lie. Losing a top 4 defenseman this time of year is tough. And against a Boston Bruins team that is deep, and they're all clicking on every cylinder you want to be clicking on. This is looking pretty good for Boston right now. So Boston, if they can score early and get in their heads a little bit, this series could turn in their favor, and we could look at a quick series. I look at last night's between Dallas and Colorado, and coming out of that game, I thought, gee, this series could be quick. So yeah, we'll see whether or not Boston can go up 2-0, or if Tampa Bay fight back and they get even in this series. You get the feeling that maybe adding Stamkos right now would be perfect, but I haven't heard any kind of updates to say Stamkos is coming back to the lineup anytime soon. So the other game tonight is, of course, Vancouver in against Vegas, and yeah, I changed the logos because why not? Vancouver, of course, is down 1-0 against Vegas, and that was just one game. That's right, I double-checked. It just counts as one game. So while there's a lot of people popping champagne at Vegas knocking off Vancouver, it's not done yet. And this is Hughes' big test. Quinn Hughes was kind of able to skate around a lot with impunity during the St. Louis series, and I talked about that in reviews of those games, where I felt like he was pinching a little too much at times, and I was concerned. And there were those that said, basically, this kid's great, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. But in this game that he played against Vegas a couple days ago, Vegas gave him no space. He had no time. So the game that he likes to play, the style he likes to play, Vegas basically knocked that off and said, no, you're not playing that way. So he's going to have to find new avenues for passes, for shots he's going to take, and they need shots from guys like Brock Besser and from Elias Pettersson. So we'll see whether or not Vegas can blanket them again tonight. That starts at 6:45 Pacific, 9:45 Eastern. So the games will be over relatively early again tonight. And we'll see whether or not Vancouver is able to win a game in this series. I'm not really overly concerned as a Canuck fan because, honestly, I didn't expect it to be here anyway. So we'll see. We'll see how far things go and the lessons that can be learned coming out of this series. Robbie Fabry yesterday signed a 2-year extension with the Detroit Red Wings. 2 years, $2.95 million a year. It's one of those things where 3 years ago I probably would have done a quick video on it, but I thought, no, I'll throw that into the news of the day because it's a restricted free agent signing. If it was a UFA, pending UFA, or if it was a really big money contract by NHL standards, I would have done a video in and of itself, but here it is in the news of the day. And it shows Yzerman's building his team well, and, he's giving Fabry a raise. Nice, healthy raise for him. But he's not breaking the bank either. So Detroit's still in pretty good shape cap-wise. I think that's the plan going into next season. And he's adding players that he likes, and this is how Yzerman works. So wait and see what he does at the next draft as well. Then in the bubble, all the testing that was done this past week, 47 tests done in the last week, and 0 positive tests again in week 4. So that brings to the total 0 so far since the return. Nada. 0. So that's great news, and we're 6 weeks away from crowning a Stanley Cup champion. Roughly 6 weeks away, and roughly potentially 7 weeks away from free agency. And this is going to be quite the furious finish to the season, and then pretty darn quick turnaround to get ready for next year. The Calgary Flames also have revealed that Matthew Tkachuk had a concussion. That's why he was not in the game. Sam Bennett had torn triceps muscle, a torn triceps. And Rasmus Anderson had a broken foot. So, again, this is one of those things where I am sure that the 8 teams that are still playing, there are plenty of injuries on those 8 rosters as well. These guys have come back after a long time off. These guys have come back and played a ton of hockey in a very short period of time, and I would expect there would be some injuries going on. So, I mean, it's commendable these guys play through injuries when they can, but again, this is what I would expect. With the schedule after the long layoff, there's going to be a lot of walking wounded. And this kind of happens every year. We talk about how tough hockey players are regularly, and it is playoff time where we see just how tough hockey players are. Now, I also wanted to touch on something from last night, because there were a lot of Colorado fans that were very upset that there was a penalty that was miscalled on Colorado that should have gone on Dallas. Yep, you're right. But Dallas had 3 power plays last night, and Colorado had 8. So when I see comments saying, hey, that game was gifted for Dallas by the referees, I can't get there. And also, there was a 5-on-3 where Dallas scored twice. Then Colorado had a 5-on-3 and didn't score. So this is one of those things where I understand people get mad about penalties, but the team does have the option to kill the penalty. That is an option, and this goes back to last year when there was a very publicly visible incident that took place where the wrong penalty was called, and everybody lost their minds. And again, my stance at the time, and still is, the option is there to kill the penalty. So hopefully that's the end of all referee controversies, at least until the very next game, which will feature Boston and Tampa. And again, I expect complete and total agreement at how great officiating is. At some point, never. It's never going to happen. And I always find it funny because, I mean, I've heard these arguments about refereeing dating back to when I first started watching hockey. And even then, hearing my grandfather's tales about, stuff that happened in the 60s where he would still complain about calls from the... So, Anyways, it's one of those things with hockey that's... I don't know that it's necessarily unique to hockey either, because I think about the NFL and there's a lot of NFL calls that you look at and say, really? What were you thinking on that one? Pass interference, huh? All right. So all that set aside, Pittsburgh. So we've seen the Kapanen deal happen, which I don't understand. Being honest, I don't get it. I don't understand why Pittsburgh's moving a first to get Kapanen. Maybe there's something Jim Rutherford can say to enlighten us on the topic, but I don't understand for Kasperi Kapanen, who I even looked at Pittsburgh's top 6 that I had on that board yesterday, and I was like, I don't know that Kapanen bumps anybody out of that top 6. So unless there's other moves coming. And it likely happens that either Murray or Jari will go next. Now, Jim Rutherford's saying that there's a good market for goalies. The problem is, he also said there was a good market for Jack Johnson. So Jim Rutherford's already had a kind of spotty record when it comes to good markets. But we'll see what he does. Because if he trades out Murray, and if he throws in another first-round draft pick, he can't throw in next year's because that belongs to Minnesota. Boy, howdy. People complain about Benning. The reality is that this is a bewildering time to watch Pittsburgh, as they're likely going to move one of their goalies, and who knows what market value is right now for goaltenders. Traditionally, when goaltenders are about to get traded, we as fans have this idea of what you can get back for a goalie, and then what you get back is usually underwhelming. And we'll see whether or not this is another case of that. So, it's highly likely, I would say, that Murray or Jari's gone before the draft, I would think, as Pittsburgh looks ahead, I guess, to next year and says we're rebuilding for next year, and we're going to go for it again. So I guess he's a firm believer in the team that finished in the top 10 in the NHL and not in the team that's lost 9 of their last 10 playoff games. There's a dangerous there's a balance that needs to be struck here, and he's dangerously, perilously close to just being all in on the team that just lost to Montreal in the play-in round. Ovi-Watch has started, and I'm not just talking about and not Overwatch either. This is Ovi-Watch. It's completely different. But it'll cost you a heck of a lot more than Overwatch potentially, because he's making $9.5 million a year, and his contract's up next year. And there's already discussion in the hockey world, not with the Caps, but there's discussion in the hockey world about what's going to happen with Ovechkin. Is he going to re-sign? And I don't know. There doesn't seem to be any rush from him or from the team to discuss it right now, and I understand there's no rush to discuss it right now. But you have to ask yourself, with a flat cap, with a team that has underperformed in the playoffs 2 years in a row, is Ovechkin going to stick around just to break Gretzky's record? Or if the Caps fall in the standings, is he going to say, you know what, I'd rather go home? Or even more unlikely would be a scenario of him saying, maybe I'll test the market and see what kind of offers I get as a free agent. So we just don't know. But we're about a year away from finding out. And Taylor Hall, because we're at Hall Watch right now, Taylor Hall is saying winning is the top priority to where he's going to land. And he can prove that by not being paid an exorbitant amount of money as a free agent and not necessarily taking a really long-term deal, taking a short-term deal for less money and seeing how that goes for him. So there you go. Where's Taylor Hall going to land is the big question, and I don't have any answers on that. I know that there's a lot of speculation out there, but again, teams can't talk to Taylor Hall without Arizona's permission right now, and until that changes, we don't have a lot to report. But hey, let me know your thoughts regarding any of this, your picks for tonight's games, and your thoughts on today's news. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And forecheck, backcheck, paycheck, bro, as they say in Letterkenny. Thanks again for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.